No Flaws by RedRix Rimuru, POV. This is bad. This is really bad. Really really bad. After I welcomed Milim, she just started crying and I am trying my hardest to calm her down. Why did she even start crying in the first place? Less than master, you may have been the first person ever to call her a part of a family greater than. Oh. But I still need to calm her down, less than, greater than. After a few minutes of trying to calm her down, I just decided to give her honey that I received from a pedo a few hours ago. What? What is this? I've never eaten anything so delicious in my life. Her mood did a complete 180. I had a fair bit of inventory left, so I put a generous supply of honey into a jar and handed it to her. It wasn't a fancy jar, misshapen and handmade from clay, but Milim still accepted it with a smile, scooping a bit up and sucking at it with gusto. At least Diablo stopped the others from coming here for my help, or that could have made things much worse. Holding the jar of honey drops carefully, Milim stuck right to my side in lockstep. Does she want more honey? I had a supply, but no intention of letting her have more of it. I didn't want my portion to run away on me. Hey, she asked, sidling up to me as we walked. Hey, have you ever thought about calling yourself a demon lord? I mean, you are partly a true dragon, but you aren't completely a true dragon, so you can still be called a demon lord? What on earth is she going on about? And why would I even want to become one? She gave me a genuinely perplexed look in response. Huh? I mean, we're talking about a demon lord here. They're really cool, you know? You kinda want to look up to them, right? Why should I even look up to the demon lords, as dragons are much more cooler anyways? You are not even a dragon completely, she said with a completely deadpan expression. Let's not talk about the small details. Anyways, guy has been bugging me to declare myself as a demon lord for quite some time now, and now even you are saying me to become one. I might just declare myself a demon lord after my town properly develops into a nice city. MMMMHH. That's really good. Well, anyways, how do you get your fun in life? Oh, all kinds of things. There's practically too much for me to do, if anything. I only just got my hands on that honey a little bit ago. There's lots of other stuff I also want to do. Wait. Why you? You're doing stuff that's more fun than being a demon lord? That's not fair. It's totally not fair. Now I'm angry. Tell me what it is, and let me join you, too. You first have to learn some manners if you want to join me. Fine. All right. Let's do this. I'll call you Milim, and you can just call me Rimuru. Sound good? MMMMHH. Well, okay. I got it. Okay. Well, I'll give you a tour of the city, but no wandering around by yourself, okay? Okay. Rimuru, ee. Great. There's a good girl. And no starting fights in town without my permission, either. Promise me? Of course. I promise. As we were walking having our conversation, Milim asked me one more question which completely stopped me in my track. Hey, were you behind the disappearance of the storm dragon Veldora? That single question almost gave me an heart attack, even though I don't have a heart. After thinking about this for a few seconds, I decided to tell her the truth. Sigh. Yes, I am, and he's not dead if you were wondering. Wahaha. I knew it. Someone as strong as you must have to do something with the early disappearance of Veldora. Yay, he is probably reading manga in my storage space or playing shogi with Ifrit, who's also trapped in my storage space. Okay. Who's Ifrit? Is he a spirit or something? How did you even know about that? But yay, he's a flame spirit. At the town's entrance, Rimuru-sama, nearly half the town was there waiting for me. Rimuru-sama, we sensed a huge magical force heading this way a few minutes ago. Good to see that you were completely safe, Sir Rimuru. Anyways, who is this girl with you, Sir Rimuru? These were the questions that started flooding as soon as I reached them. Jeez. You don't need to worry, guys. That huge magical force that you sensed was coming from this person, and you might know her by the name of the Demon Lord Milim Nava, and she is one of my relative. My answer was met with complete silence until Diablo came forward and said, It's an honor meeting you, Milim-sama. After which all of them started cheering, some even started to cry tears of happiness. Some people even said things like, What? Lady Milim, the Demon Lord? Well done, Sir Rimuru. We should expect no less of Sir Rimuru. My stars, I've never seen her royal countenance in person before. Man, Milim is really popular. Anyways, I don't have to make another announcement because almost half of the town is gathered in this place. So just to make sure we're clear, starting today. Well, Milim's one of us. If she runs into any problems, I want you all to help her out. Yes. Rimuru is my uncle, so if something comes up, I'm your girl. The cheers became even louder for some reason. A few minutes later, Gabiru was nearly killed by Milim for calling her a child. And later that night all her responsibilities were dumped onto me. The next day after taking care of Milim, I headed for the sealed cave with Kaijin coming along. Were you all right after yesterday? I asked Gabble, who was waiting for me. He seemed fine to me, but a cheap shot from a demon lord could lead to all kinds of after effects. No problem at all, sir. I am supremely confident in my body's durability. He certainly acted like always. I breathed a sigh of relief as Vester gingerly came up to me. By the way, Sir Rimuru, I did file the report with King Gazel as well. I hope it was all right. A report about Milim was what he meant. I asked him to send one off yesterday. Of course I said to leave the part of her being my niece, that could lead to some unnecessary trouble. Not a problem. Did the communication crystal work all right? It did, yes. It connected me to King Gazel almost immediately. All I said to him was that the demon lord Milim attacked and that you handled it, Sir Rimuru, but was that good enough? Yay, well, we talked it over last night, and it was decided that I'd be taking care of Milim. Because of that, if they have any bright ideas, I'd love to hear them. Yes, I am sure. The demon lord Milim is a class beyond all the others, as I understand. Quite, Gabble added. The strongest in the world, as far as I am aware. And I am her uncle and I am stronger than her. At this revelation they both looked shell-shocked. I mean, Milim is a walking natural disaster, and I said that I am her uncle and am stronger than her. If this news got out, it would very much create unwanted trouble. But there was no point in worrying all day. I had time to think about demon lord politics later. For now, I wanted to ask about healing potion. And they indeed delivered at making a full potion. So after some discussion we decided to sell the diluted version of this, calling them the low potion. Less than Master Milim has attacked Phobio, greater than, not again. Well, no point dwelling on the past. The future was more important. So what are you all here for? I said to the now awake Phobio. HMPH, and I have to reply to you lowly would-be magic born. Benimaru, Diablo and Shion immediately glared at him. I motioned them to stay cool, and they reluctantly stayed there, watching things unfold. Call me lowly if you want, but I'm definitely very much stronger than you. Also, I'd advise you to just give me some answers. I don't know this Carolon guy much, but depending on how you act around me, maybe he's gonna have to answer to us before long, okay? Think you're ready to make enemies with the entire forest of Jura? Ha. Well, look at you. The most self-important slime in the world, eh? And this entire town carries out the orders of such a base creature? What a bunch of wimps you must have here. And just because Lady Milim likes you a little, don't let that get to your head, boy. He seriously doesn't know how to sense danger, does he? A base creature? Milim, done with her sandwich, raised her voice again. You think you can pick on my uncle like that? Hang on, Milim. If you do anything else, I'm seriously taking dinner away from you, okay? Oh, okay. I'll be good, I promise. Well, first off, you're wrong. I am a slime completely and I rule over 30% of this forest, and if you're rarin' for war, then I'm willing to accept that. So I'd advise being careful in how you respond to me. The answers came surprisingly more readily than I thought. The pouting, sullen answers could be summed up as follows. The demon lord Carolon had ordered him to try to scout either the Orc Lord or the mystery magic born that fought him, whichever had survived. The magic born referred to us. Getting back to the subject, whoever won the fight between the Orc Lord and his foe was likely going to be an incredibly strong foe. So Carolon sent the Black Leopard Fang Phobio, a sub-demon lord in his own right, to check it out. Carolon had a good eye for that kind of thing, apparently, but Phobio was just too much of a moron for the job. Carolon. Breaking our promise not to get in each other's way. Milim was stewing next to me. Milim's presence meant that Phobio had no power here, so he glared at the two of us, barked out, "You will regret this," and left, or more like ran away. Sigh. Man, now I have to deal with Charybdis again. Fuse. POV. around the time when Rimuru first encountered Benimaru and his clan, back when they were still merely ogres. Fuse was sighing as loudly as he could at the three adventurers in front of him. He had sent this trio to figure out what was happening in the forest of Jura, and the moment they got back, they began telling him the most astounding of tall tales. They were Kabul, Ellen, and Guido, three talented guild members, all worthy of Fuse's trust. Their ranks were all B, and Fuse knew they were more than up to the challenge that letter came with. The first story they had for him was about their final moments with Shizu Izawa, a woman Fuse, as well, felt he owed his life to. And that's how she summoned Ifrit, only to get swallowed up by the raging beast. She probably traveled out of town because she knew that would happen. I think she realized she didn't have much time left. You said it, and who knows if she ever recovered. My guess is that she would have been a lot happier with just lying down and dying in her sleep. After the expedition was over, Shizu said she intended to travel to the Demon Lord's territory. She had some unfinished business there, apparently, and she insisted upon attending to it. Fuse knew there was no convincing her otherwise. So he decided to help her from behind the scenes, pairing her with three adventurers he planned to send into the forest. A pity, then, that they weren't with her to the very end. Fuse had no right to criticize them for that. Their mission came first, and Fuse himself had kept her true nature a secret from them. But did they really have to leave her under the care of monsters? He had no right to criticize them, but it still left a bad taste in his mouth. Plus, there was so much of their story that he just couldn't accept. Shizu was one thing, but their briefing was entirely based on monsters building a town for themselves. A single slime was at the top of the food chain, gathering hobgoblins to construct this town, a full-on, sturdily made municipality, just like any human settlement. This trio was talking about a bunch of monsters clearing land in the forest, chopping down trees, and using the wood to build homes. They even divided the town into distinct zones, crafting intricate plans about what would be built where. The more Fuse heard about it, the more it sounded like a real, full-on town. But it was hard to accept monsters pulling a trick like that. And that slime made him wonder. This creature, apparently named Rimuru, didn't seem like your typical named monster. In fact, all the monsters in this town were named, a situation that turned common sense on its ear. All this apparently happened after this Rimuru monster appeared. It was too shocking a tale to ignore. So after these monsters rescued you, this is the town you were taken to? Right. And we're talking, you know, several hundred C+ ranked monsters living together? There was really nothing we could have done. I thought I was a goner for sure. And then, they fed us actual cooked meat. Shocking though their tale was, however, these three buffoons were making it sound like a nice campout in the woods. And after that, Shizu went out of control and Rimuru defeated the magic born she transformed into. It was all simply beyond belief. Ifrit was a special A-grade spirit. If something like that went rogue and started attacking, it'd be a calamity-class danger. A nation the size of Bloomond would face a truly existential crisis. And a slime, the lowest class of monster, defeated this? While making it look like a child's play? Fuse wanted to shout at them to quit joking, but they all acted dead serious in their report. Between that, the dwarven artisans in town, and the healing potion that took care of even near-lethal injuries, he honestly began to wonder if they had dreamed at all. He suspected some form of illusory magic, but that was doubtful. Not as long as Ellen was there. Magicians like her had high magical resistance, and anyone who could overcome that with their illusions was a special A-grade in themselves. Plus, the equipment the trio had on was some seriously compelling physical evidence. They had boasted about it to Fuse to no end, but clearly it was of quality make and superior performance. A first-class set. They even possessed an item or two forged by Garm, that most famous of dwarven craftsmen. Fuse could tell they weren't fakes. It was ridiculous, but he had to accept it as the truth. He had to, but the report left him at a loss. How should he even judge this news? We had best send someone else to investigate, he decided after a week's worth of pained deliberation. By Cabal's description, his team never felt in danger inside this monster town. They had come home with gifts of equipment and healing potion, so that evaluation made sense. That, and after examining all this equipment, they found no curses applied to it and also potion of a better quality than almost anything the local guild had seen. This town of Rimuru's was orderly, populated by monsters that followed the slime's orders. What's more, although Fuse couldn't guess at the motive, the slime expressed a desire to visit their own city sometime. Cobble and his friends said he was welcome, and should it ever happen, Fuse had already asked the trio to arrange things with him. To him, the idea of letting some unknown monster venture into the kingdom of Bloomend was outrageous. But defying the will of a monster powerful enough to defeat Ifrit solo would be just as foolish. Fuse found himself plagued with self-doubt. If I let such a monster into town, I could easily be prosecuted for subversion against the state. No matter what it took, even if it meant providing his own funds for the job, he really had to investigate this in more detail. Just as Fuse was fretting over who to select for this new expedition, Cobble and his cohorts came running over with a new problem. He could hear Cobble calling for him in the guild building now. Meeting him without an appointment normally wasn't allowed, but the panicked tone of his shouting gave Fuse pause. "What is it this time? Is it something to do with that one?" he asked inside his secret reception room, pointing out a hooded figure among them. "We got trouble, Fuse. This guy said there's an Orc Lord out there." An Orc Lord? Fuse almost spit his tea out. First Veldora blinking out of existence, then this mystery slime, and now this Orc Lord. Fuse suspected it might all be connected, and the thought was draining. "I'm sorry, but could I ask you who you are?" Fuse queried, recomposing himself. The hooded figure immediately removed his cloak, as if waiting for his cue. "Sorry about that. My name's Gobda, and I work under my captain, Gobda. I came here to tell Cobble over there about the Orc Lord, upon the request of my leader, Sir Rimuru." Then he put his hood back on and sat down again. Fuse knew what he saw. That was a monster, a hobgoblin. He might resemble a human from far away, but the green twinge to his skin was unmistakable. And a named monster, no less. Cobble was telling the truth. This last bit of evidence finally convinced Fuse to believe fully in him. This Orc Lord report must have been the unvarnished truth as well, then. "My name is Fuse. I serve as guild master for the Free Guild here in Bloomend. Gobda, do you mind if I ask you a question?" "What's that, sir?" "This Sir Rimuru, your master. Why did he want us to know about this?" "Ooh, the rank and file like me don't get told those kinds of things." "I see. If you ask me, I'd say the Orc Lord's well and truly dead already, but so be it. I wanted to go in with Gobda, too, but Sir Rimuru commanded me personally to travel here instead." Gobda must have been fairly peeved about that, if he volunteered that information without being asked. He practically grumbled the last few words out. But Fuse was too thrown by the revelation to pay his tone of voice much mind. What? The slime. Defeating an Orc Lord? Are you kidding? Wait. Is this slime treating us as insurance? Is that how far ahead he's planned his moves? A monster? That's ridiculous. You ask me, though, Cobble volunteered, that Orc Lord's gonna be no match for Rimuru. Oh, you said it. He took out Ifrit all by himself. Even if you let the Orc Lord mature, it's just not enough of a threat for him. Between the trio and Gobda, nobody in the room seemed to doubt Rimuru's ultimate victory. That was. Well, whatever. The problem was, what was Rimuru thinking at the moment? His distinctly unmonster-like activities stood out in Fuse's mind. Building a town, leading great crowds of monsters, and yet apparently seeking a cooperative relationship with mankind. Was Rimuru the slime some kind of special creature? He seemed so to Fuse. All right. Thank you for relaying the message. Understood, sir. I'll be off, then. Before anyone could stop him, Gobda was off his seat and out of the room, a dignified and very unmonster-like exit. "I'm not sure I can deal with this guy by myself. Better talk to my friend first." The image of his good friend, the Baron of Veryard, popped into his mind. This was now a national issue, and Fuse was prepared to tackle it. The expedition he was picturing in his mind would soon be greatly expanded, to the point where it would become a 3-month investigation. 3 months later, he had his reports. Fuse was there, at the usual spot, having a secret meeting with Baron of Veryard. "So this is the report from your investigation? Based on the evidence from their march, the force numbered several 100,000. That suggests beyond a doubt that it was an Orc Lord, doesn't it?" "Indeed, Baron. You would never believe how hard it was to ask the king for permission to deploy his intelligence department. They certainly came through for us, though." "Ha ha ha, Yes, I heard. It seems they have a chair all ready for you in that department. No? I imagine your father would like to hand his position as supervisor over to you sooner rather than later. Don't remind me. I have enough on my plate dealing with guild master duties here in town. True enough. But that's a discussion for another time. This is some extremely valuable information, a town of monsters, and a slime living there that can overcome an Orc Lord by force. An Orc Lord who may have led an army of up to 200,000, no less. And scariest of all those surviving orcs simply settled across the land instead of rioting and running roughshod over it. Is it all really true? I mean, I know it is, but I cannot believe any of it. Fuse could understand the Baron's feelings all too well. He felt the same way. No adventurer in the world could slay an Orc Lord with an army in the six figures supporting it. Even if they managed some kind of stealth mission to assassinate this nemesis, and even if it worked, that army would go nuts and raze all the nearby villages. There'd be no way to counter that. The national army would be a drop in the bucket, and the Night Corps of some tinier kingdom would just be swallowed by the stampeding horde. You're right. It's simply unbelievable. Would monsters take such an intelligent, considered approach to this? And how did they convince that massive army not to riot in the first place? Did they actually manage to feed that many orcs? They must have. It's impossible to accept, but we have to. That slime, Rimuru, I think he's saved all of us. Yes. Indeed. So we have a town of monsters about a 2-week journey from Bloomend. That much, we've confirmed. They said it was an astonishing example of functional beauty, but they only had the chance to view it from afar. They've clearly been at work on a wide swath of land around the town, but all of it was still covered under a tight network of patrols. Even our own agents suggested that infiltration would be difficult at best. Doesn't that tell you a lot about the intelligence level of this town's monsters? And the real question is, how should we handle our own relationship with them? Should we approach this slime as a benevolent presence or as a potential threat to try to eliminate? Wait. You speak of eliminating him like it would be simple, but is such a thing even possible? Baron Verjard didn't raise an eyebrow. To him, as much as it was to Fuse, that was already a given. They had both concluded that Bloomend had no chance of victory alone, not unless the Western Holy Church was willing to expend paladins for the job. Each resident of that monster town was at least a C+ rank in themselves, as expected, since they were all named. Some were reportedly in our special territory. Their total war power couldn't even be measured right now. Are you volunteering for that, Fuse? Sure. I want to measure this Rimuru guy with my own eyes. Verjard gave him an approving nod. Hostilities weren't anyone's first choice, but this was no potential challenger that could be left ignored any longer. Fuse felt the need to judge for himself. Relying on someone else to make that call wouldn't work. That was the best choice, and a choice he could only make because the Baron respected him so much. Plus, yesterday's events made Fuse believe all the more that visiting this slime directly was the best solution. He had asked Cabal's group to guide him to the monsters' town on that same day. While they spoke, they were all approached by another stranger with a message. You are Cabal, right? The man asked. I am here to relay a message from Sir Rimuru. The Orc Lord issue has been resolved. Sorry I forgot to tell you guys, that is all. Nobody in the group was more surprised by this sudden intrusion than Fuse. They were all seated in a space inside the Free Guild, a room that took every measure possible against people sneaking in. If this stranger was invited in, that was one thing, but it would have taken unbelievable skill to make one's own way inside. Wait. Who are you? The blue-haired intruder turned his cold eyes toward Fuse. I am called Soe. Sir Rimuru has appointed me his covert agent. He gave the reply softly and steadily, completely unfazed by the coercion from Fuse, an A- fighter himself. Fuse may have felt overwhelmed by this all-powerful presence before him, but he still had the kingdom's intelligence force at his fingertips, and he knew how to use those skills of his. So he decided to gather as much information as he could from Soe. Rimuru, the leader of the monster town. Why are a bunch of monsters worried about us? Hey. Haven't your friends already told you? Sir Rimuru is exploring ways to live in peace and prosperity with the human race. I am unsure why you are so wary of us, but I would suggest that selecting reconciliation over rejection would be the smarter decision. Not even Fuse could hide his surprise at the statement. It meant that his attempts at intelligence gathering were completely exposed. Hoo boy. If this is the level of monster Rimuru has recruited, I simply must meet him soon. He could tell that Soe was a monster. Even without the horn on his forehead, the aura was as clear as day. He had no intention of hiding it, but it emitted only a slight amount of magicules. It didn't suggest this creature was anything special, but Fuse's sixth sense was still ringing alarm bells. He decided to trust in it. I see. So you're on to the fact that we've been investigating you. Well, before that, there's something I'd like to ask. How did a magic born of your level infiltrate this town? Because I believe we're protected by a barrier that blocks out all monsters ranked or higher. A high-level magic born like you shouldn't be anywhere near here.
Ah yes, I did notice the presence of that barrier, but that's what it was meant for, then.
Perhaps Sir Rimuru or Lady Shuna could have identified it as such, but I wasn't able to see quite so much. Thank you for telling me. In exchange, I will answer your question. This body is generated by my replication skill, and thus retains only 1/10 of my magical energy. In your ranking system, I imagine it would only manage A- or so. Do you see what I mean? This kingdom truly does have a splendid defense network, but if it is willing to let low-level monsters slide that easily, I can see it still has its holes. Fuse listened slack-jawed at Soe's explanation, feeling the cold eyes on him. It sounded true enough to him, and his point was totally valid. With all the effort they expended dealing with hazard class A ranks, they had overlooked some of the most basic threats, and it was a monster, a potential target of this system, who had pointed it out to him. A small wonder that it turned Fuse's world upside down.
Well, if you will excuse me. Wait, as Soe turned to go, Fuse shouted and stopped him. He had just enough time to explain to the monster that he wanted an audience with Rimuru, in the town that he ran.
I will inform Sir Rimuru, in that case, he said, bringing a close to the day's events. This was why Fuse was making the journey. He laughed a bit at the position he was in, dragging the kingdom into this, then dragging himself into the kingdom's work all over again.
Damn, I didn't intend to serve my kingdom doing this, but he might have complained about it, but he liked life in Bloomond.
He couldn't just abandon it and flee, so he hired Cabal's trio as his guides, and they quickly planned the journey to Rimuru, capital of the Jura Tempest Federation. Thus, swish, wham, bash, I think the ambient noise speaks well enough for itself. In short, Tortur Kof training Benimaru, Xian, Soe, Zijin and Apito. Well, I am training Zijin and Apito because after receiving names from me they straight up evolved into their humanoid forms. I had to deal with Veldora whining about stealing his students, but it is safe to say, Veldora was ignored. Training them along with Milim has become a regular part of my routine.
The only person who can kinda put up a fight is Hakuro, all thanks to the arts and techniques he learnt over the years.
Since compared to them our powers were completely ridiculous, skills practically cheating and stamina inexhaustible. So it's a pretty good training session every day for them. Though I heal them completely afterwards. Anyways, Benimaru and Xian has reached the million class, EP 1 million plus.
Zejin, Rongda and Soe had reached above the Demon Lord seed level, EP 600,000 to 750,000.
Geld and Gabiru also joined us sometimes and have also reached Demon Lord seed level, but they are still somewhat weaker than the others. Makes sense, they work most of the time in the construction and research respectively. EP 400,000 plus.
Apito and Hakuro have reached the sub-Demon Lord level, EP 250,000 plus.
In terms of the actual battle prowess, Benimaru, Xian, Zijin, and Soe would be able to beat the pseudo-awakened Clayman. Rongda's control over magicules also increases by leaps and bounds. He would also be able to defeat the pre-awakened Clayman. Geld and Gabiru will be able to at least fight Frey and Carolon on equal footing. I can't say if they will be able to defeat them or not because I don't know about their complete fighting capabilities. Apito would be able to fight Albus on equal footing according to my analysis. Shuna had also gained another unique skill called Analyst, which drained her energy reserves to a B+ level for some time. I also taught her Ultimate Secret of Faith and Grace, along with teaching her the extra skill, Holy Demonic Reversal, which in all honesty is a complete cheat. Diablo and Shuna also tried some experiments with it or something like that. I am not sure about the details though. Better not question about that kind of stuff. 20 more ogres from Benimaru's village evolved into Pharaohs after intensive training from Hakuro. ranking a slightly under Special A. The 20 now evolved Onas were made the captains of 6-man platoons patrolling around the town or the forest. Out of the 230 surviving ogres, 120 had volunteered for this, and the rest were also helping around town. Some of them became Charybdis or Shuna's apprentices, some were helping in the production departments, some were helping in the construction. The kids joined the educational facilities. Educational workshops were put up regularly every week around the town, and the people were enthusiastically participating in them, both in holding them and attending them. We were going to do all our assigned work after finishing when a messenger ran up to us and said that Gobuta had brought along a group of humans. 3 of them were Ellen, Cobble and Guido, but the rest were visiting Tempest for the first time, and that one of them had also requested a meeting with me. I obviously had known who they were, so I quickly went to the meeting hall in which they were waiting.
After the messenger finished his report, I turned into my slime form as I was carried by Xian to the meeting hall, along with Shuna and Diablo joining us on the way.
Once we arrived at the meeting room, we were briefed about Gobuta's meeting with them, or what were they here for, along with introductions. And a few minutes into the meeting, Yam nearly got his skull cracked by an enraged Xian, but a few shakes of healing potion, and he woke right back up. To sum up Fuse's motives in his own words, the very idea of monsters creating towns. Pardon me. I can understand demi-humans building settlements well enough, but a town where multiple races live together. I've never heard of such a thing. I have a habit of not fully believing something unless I witness it with my own eyes, you see. And if this whole story was true, I wanted to figure out how we would interact with it, and how much. The reports I received told me this land wasn't a threat, but I thought ascertaining for myself would be the best move. So that's what brings me here. I was hoping you'll permit me to stay a while so I can survey the entirety of your operations. And I gave him permission for that almost immediately. Yom's motives, meanwhile, were a bit more complex, so after some explanations and discussions, it was once again decided that Yom would be the one being portrayed as the champion who defeated the Orc Lord with the help of a completely harmless slime who would absolutely not be able to wipe out every single living creature if it so wanted, in a matter of minutes. And now Fuse was with me, too. After a few weeks of torture training with Hikuro, Yom and his crew left the town with an air of brave, battle-proven warriors. More than worthy of accompanying a champion. Things were starting to calm down again, and I wanted to have some highways we could leverage to improve our trading activity. I was prepared to leave that issue alone if we were seen as the enemy, but if we were building diplomatic relations with other countries, we needed some real roads, fast. And since I ran things in the forest, it was up to us, I felt, to do all the construction work. I figured now was a good time to plead my case to Fuse about this, even if it sounded a tad patronizing, and have him do his job for me. It had the intended effect. Fuse looked honestly touched. Sir Rimuru, you would really do all that for us? In that case, we'll do our best to provide any kind of support you need.
It's just too easy. Cobble and his friends were back by the time I had finished cajoling Fuse. Milim came running up to me, a big smile on her face while she boasted about the monster hunting she did with the trio in the forest. As I was kind of praising her on this, I felt the presence of Treya, a dryad and Trainee's younger sister. Looks like it's time for Charybdis, but first we still needed to hold a meeting about that topic. After our discussions were nearly finished, Fuse finally spoke.
You aren't going to run? He finally asked, clearly worried for all of us. What would running accomplish? I'm the strongest dude in this nation, and I am pretty sure that Benimaru would be able to burn that flying fish to ashes.
Plus, since I am the strongest in the alliance, nobody's running as long as I don't lose. Though no one else would be able to beat a threat that can defeat me. I thought about saying that, but I found it a little too embarrassing. Sir Rimuru, are you sure about that? Because Charybdis is a being on par with the demon lords.
Yea, I am 100% certain that my subordinates alone would be able to take out that thing all alone. Either way, if there's absolutely no chance of winning, then sure, I'll run away and think up another plan. If not, though, then it's important that I go right in front of our foe and gauge how strong he is with my own eyes, isn't it? But for that flying fish, my subordinates are more than strong enough to take it head on.
Ah, that's what being a leader of monsters means, I suppose. Yeah, well, this isn't the kind of nation that would crumble after losing its king anyway.
Still, it strikes me, Sir Rimuru, that you think quite a bit like we humans do. You don't seem like a monster at all. Plus, It's just so strange, having a slime be the most powerful being in the realm.
Sorry to burst your bubble. Even though I look like I am a slime, I am not a slime. Just someone who is able to transform into a slime because it's honestly the most comfortable form to be in. Fuse looked flabbergasted upon my clarification. You might find it hard to believe it, but I used to be a human being once and an otherworlder. On top of that, I and Shizu belonged even to the same homeland. While talking, I used my universal shapeshift skill to transform into a human. What on? Fuse's eyes lit up as Cabal's crew audibly yelped in surprise. Looking at you, you are kind of like a more beautiful version of Shizu, Ellen timidly said. Yeah. I wasn't really hiding it or anything, but I didn't take this form around you guys because I didn't want you to get the wrong idea. Ellen's right. I inherited this form from Shizu.
Inherited? Yeah. When I ate her, they retained their cool as they waited for me to continue. They had chosen to believe in me, luckily enough.
Shizu and I came from the same country. When she died, she asked me to take over her mission. And as proof, I also have this. As I said that, I put that mask that Shizu gave me onto the table. Can you tell us what happened? Fuse asked. There was not a trace of doubt in his voice. So I spent the next few minutes describing Shizu's final moments, as well as the circumstances behind my death and rebirth. I obviously left out the time travel part out for now at least. I am going to remove the chains that bind her down so that she can rest peacefully. I promised her as much. I'm going to free up all the emotions that are binding her heart down. Even though I have met the guy and know that these things happened because of his complete lack of interactions with her, I still want to punch him in the face, a soft yet very deadly one at that. Wow. I always knew I could believe in you, Rimuru. Ellen flashed me a friendly smile. As for the other three men.
Leon, huh, you gotta be kidding me, you know a demon lord too.
Man, I don't even know what to say about you knowing Leon. Well, I also know a few other demon lords such as Milim, Dino, Ramirez, Leon and Guy Crimson. Wait, how do you even know all these demon lords? The trio shouted in unison. Wait, Sir Rimuru, does that mean that the person named Milim staying in this town is actually the demon lord Milim? Fuse asked, almost completely pale after hearing my clarification. Yes, she is the actual demon lord Milim Nava, thud. Oh no, he passed out, Ellen commented. I don't blame him, I was also about to pass out. Guess we would need to treat Fuse before the battle. Rimuru, POV. We're standing at the midway point between the capitals of Dwargon and Tempest.
It is about time for Charybdis to appear. I thought.
Less than Master Majoran is watching over the battlefield, greater than. Isn't she supposed to be the future wife of you? Less than, yes, greater than, I see. So can we use some illusions to show the events that played out last time without being detected?
Less than that is a very easy task, Master greater than. I knew that I could always rely on you, Seal.
Less than Fufu, you can praise me more, Master greater than. I thought that she said something along those lines, but I ignored it. Anyways, I brought along 25 people with me. The group consisted of
Benimaru, Shion, Soe, Soka and the other 4 Dragonutes who were under Soe, Hakuro, Ronga, Geld and 3 other orc generals, Gabaru and 3 of his strongest subordinates, Apito, Gobuta and 4 other goblin riders, Shuna and Diablo, who refused to leave my side.
In short, our strategy is to take care of the megalodons first, then Benimaru would burn Charybdis to ashes. Zijin had to sit out this fight because with his current control over magic he wouldn't be able to do much against the magic interference. While I am waiting for Charybdis to arrive, I am trying to stop Milim from joining the fight.
I will absolutely not fall for those puppy eyes. Eventually, my senses picked up a group of 14 monsters approaching us.
Those were giant sharks, over 60 feet in length, gracefully swimming across the sky. Bodies protected by solid, stiff dragon scales. Why does a fish even have dragon scales? Brushing aside the thought, I again took a look at those massive sharks and the humongous 150 feet long gigantic dragon. The creature indeed worthy of being called a calamity, exuding a weird, ominous sort of beauty. Benimaru started to prepare for an one-hit KO from the beginning, but it would need a few minutes to prepare a hell flare attack encompassing the radius of nearly 500 feet. On top of that, he was deciding to pour nearly half of his total energy into it. All right. Let's follow the plan. Break them up and take each one out, I boldly declared. Heeding my order, They all spread out to their positions along with their teams, which were Geld and Gabiru working together along with their underlings, Hakuro and the Goblin Riders, Shion and Ranga, the Shadow Squad, aka Soe and the gang working with Apito.
Each shark was an A+ rank monster, so fighting them should provide them with some pretty decent experience.
To sum up, those sharks were offensive and defensive powerhouses, but their speed in battle wasn't that much of a threat. Based on its speed, the Megalodon wasn't that astonishing of a monster. Of course, a single strike from one could still easily be lethal. I had my command post set up on a slightly elevated hill, so I could see the action unfold below me. Geld's and Gabiru's teams were the first ones to initiate the assault. Geld's men themselves ranked a solid A+1 and Gabiru's men were just under the rank of Special A. Even still, if I had to bet on who would win out of these two groups, I would vote for Geld's team, simply because their overall control over magic and really high defenses paired with Geld's unique skill, Gourmet, makes them an immovable wall. Using the trees as cover, the force began trying to entice the Megalodons to come closer so Gabiru's men could strike.
Crack, and it was a success this time. Also, Geld just ripped apart the jaw of one of the Megalodons, and Gabiru finished it off.
Lethal combat was breaking out elsewhere as Geld commenced his attack. Gobta, following Hakuro's orders, was using his case cannon to strike at Megalodons. It had opened a gash in the Megalodon's stomach, about half a yard in width, but all that did was add fuel to its anger. Hey, I dunno if this is gonna work. Ho ho ho. Of course it won't. I lured it over here so I could have all of you defeat it. Gah. You're just bullying me, old man. What transpired next was a game of tag in the forest, ending with our one and only casualty. I'm sure he's not dead, though, so I'll just believe that he's still alright. Up in the sky, things were getting pretty explosive. Soe was there grappling with a Megalodon in midair. Monster puppet string. It was a secret move, letting the caster fully control monsters that lacked intelligence. Special bewitching string was used to tap into the neural network that carried messages from the brain, replacing them with fabricated orders instead. He used these puppet sharks to kill other sharks. It was such a brilliant, dazzling display that you almost forgot those sharks were supposed to be a plus rank. After a little bit, when the Megalodon on Megalodon fighting grew more intense, the four Dragonutes under Sokka began their attack. Sokka stayed high above, giving out orders for the others to follow. It worked. Despite the slight difference in rank, they were bringing the sharks down, and thus, Sokka's team bagged 4 confirmed shark kills for themselves. Apito was zooming around in the air creating sushi in sky. Not sure if we would be able to eat that or not.
Looking closely above one of the shark, you could see a person riding some kind of creature descending down hundreds of feet from above it and cutting it into two, while Ranga used black lightning was able to completely incinerate one of the Megalodon.
Fighting these huge, tactless brutes is no fun at all. I grow tired of it. I'd like to target their leader, but what do you think, Ranga? Shion, that opinion speaks to my own heart as well. Let us go and see what this foe's strength truly is. That's the spirit, Ranga. Let's do it. Their excuses made, the two of them sprinted toward Charybdis. Paying no further mind to the Megalodon, Soe also flew over to Charybdis using one of the Megalodon as his mount. Soe, I would advise you to stay away from this for a while. Shion jumped off from Ranga's back nearly 1,000 foot above the body of Charybdis. Despite being parallel with the ground below, Shion couldn't have looked more serene. The moment Soe got away from the massive body of Charybdis, Shion like a guillotine swung her blade with a massive war cry. Behold! Decapitating demon blade. Instead of unleashing pure aura like ogre sword cannon, it simply formed it into a set shape for use. But thanks to working with Ranga to gain as much speed as she possibly could for the strike, the tip of her blade reaching speeds several times higher than the speed of sound. She also used nearly 2/3 of her energy reserves and dissected the giant monster in two. Along with her unique skill, Master Chef, to rewrite the laws that made up the body of the draconic monster. In an instant the monstrosity was cut in half, marginally missing Phobio inside it. Impressive, I said. That certainly is very impressive, Diablo agreed. But there is a person inside it too, and judging by the aura, and I think it's Phobio, the magic-born that visited our town a few days ago.
There is. Yes, he's in there, so can you kind of not kill him as long as he's in there? I mean, if he's alive, then we might be able to actually make an agreement with his master. Quote.
As expected of Rimuru-sama, I will try my best to keep him alive. Okay, then I should give the orders for the other to retreat. Shion, Ranga and Soe, you should retreat immediately. Benimaru is about to launch his attack.
A few seconds later Soe appeared right next to me, closely followed by Shion and Ranga later.
Alright Benimaru, you are free to attack. Yes sir. Away with you, he whispered, and then a percussive boom shook the land. For the first time Benimaru had unleashed Hell Flare without any kind of restraint, except for the part where Phobio was.
But that attack was far more powerful than ever before, stabbing right through Charybdis's magic interference and rendering its body into ash, including the parts that Shion sliced out. It proved to the world that Benimaru's control over Magicules completely overpowered this monster's.
A monster rivaling the Demon Lords in terms of power. Wow, so cool. Milim and the other were cheering loudly after that attack. That was awesome. So cool. I could hear the people saying these things behind us.
Man, that was a really nice attack you got there, I honestly commented.
Well done Benimaru Dono. Diablo commented, nicely done Onisama. Shuna also added, practically beaming with happiness. Well, I still have stuff to do. Saving that Phobio and all. As I said, that I transformed into my human form and teleported everyone to the location where Phobio was falling. I flew over to the Magic Born, grabbing him before he smashed against the ground. He was alive, if barely, which meant I got what I wanted. What are you doing with him? Milim questioned. Just watch. We can't let Phobio go free, right? I figured we better take care of him right now. Fully. Seal, you know what to do, and so do I. Less than, did you really need to include that pun there, master? Greater than.
Nope, but I wanted to. Anyways, let's get to work. With that I began my work of fully separating Phobio from Charybdis.
Less than report. The magical core of the individual Charybdis has successfully been separated from the individual Phobio. Consuming the magical core of the individual Charybdis successful. Analyzing core successful, greater than. Now all I had left to do was give some healing potion to the nearly dead Phobio. Now to wait for him to awaken. NGH. Where am I? What happened to me? Hey there. You up? Do you remember what you did? I spoke slowly to the bleary-eyed Phobio, who was gradually regaining consciousness at the sound of my words. Then he jumped up and, incredibly suddenly, prostrated himself before me. I am sorry. I deeply apologize to you. I've done something horrible to you. I've put so much trouble upon all of you a second time.
Before I could say anything, Trainee asked another question.
How? Did you know where Charybdis was sealed away? Because I highly doubt you merely stumbled upon it. Well, to his credit, he didn't hide any of it and fully explained what happened to him, the request he made to the two masked agents of the moderate jesters.
A pair of strange-looking masked clowns. But that location is secret. Only we knew where it was, and it was the hero herself who told us. A formidable foe, indeed, if they were able to track it down. And masked, you say?
Was one of the masks asymmetrical, perhaps? Drawn to look like they were making fun of you? No, there was a girl whose mask made it look like she was crying, and then a fat man with an angry mask. They called themselves Tyr and Footman. If I may interrupt, I would like to say that I know these people. I should explain in detail. So in short, the masked Majin used to be Jahil, the person who was behind the killing of Gaia, or you might know as the pet dragon that Milim once had. The man with the asymmetrical mask used to be Sarian Grimwald, a chosen hero who nearly died in mortal combat with the Chaos Dragon. In fact, Sarian was blown from the chest down. Tyr used to be the maidservant of the princess of the High Elves back then. And the princess she served was turned into an undead with most of her memories erased, and later became the cursed Lord Kazarium, who later turned Sarian Grimwald and her maidservant into undead because they were the only people that could be saved from that chaos, and Jahil was also somehow able to survive as Footman. So this Footman guy was behind the death of Gaia? Milim asked in a completely monotone voice. Yes. He was the person behind the death of Gaia and the events that followed that. He was the one who was also present at the ogre village when they were attacked. So if you see him, you guys have my complete permission to kill him, but remember, he will not die so easily since he's an undead, so you would need to completely destroy his soul also. After my explanation and permission there was a few second-long silence, after which Benimaru spoke. Thank you, my lord, for giving us this opportunity. We will definitely see to it that he will be killed completely. The rest just nodding along with him. With that out of the way, I guess I could call him out. You Demon Lord Carillon, how long do you intend to just stay there? Which again led to the formation of a non-aggression pact between the Jura Tempest Federation and the Beast Kingdom Uranotsia.